Hey. All right, I've got about 50 minutes or so, and then I will have to go. But yeah, we can get some debates in. So let's do it. Let's get back on it. So yeah, you guys might remember last time I was focusing on the debate tactics and stuff like that. So I had a thought overnight that basically instead of asking the audience to call me out, the guests should also use the 3-strike system on me. And we're going to do it today in a way where the first one to get called out on 3 strikes loses the debate. So that means that any guest who is debating against me, if I dodge a question, they should say, that's strike 1, James, and they should get me to answer that question. And if they, still can't get me to answer it, then they should say, that's strike 2 and try again. And if it gets to strike 3, then I've officially lost the debate. But if they get to strike 3, if I put them on a strike 3, then that's it, they're out of here, okay? So we're going to try this today and see how it goes. So yeah, that's pretty clear grounds for winning the debate, right? Pretty clear rules for who's going to win the debate. This should really clear it up for people in the chat, right? Okay, so yeah, let's hope some people will start joining soon. Let's get some contenders, some challengers. Thank you, Jan, for saying I can't lose. It's you can't really lose when you're arguing for extinction and nobody having to suffer, right? The thing is that there is no intelligent way to argue for cruelty and selfishness and allowing extreme suffering. If you try, you will just end up sounding like a psychopath or an idiot. So that's why, right? It's like, imagine trying to, argue for child abuse being a good thing, right? You're going to end up sounding like a complete idiot. So that's why, that's what happens when people argue against extinction. Bob, hello, how you doing?
Hey, James.
Yeah, hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh yeah, awesome. Well, I just want to say that I support it, and I really appreciate your live stream. So yeah.
Oh, thank you for the support, Bob.
I'm really sorry if I'm interrupting. I just want to say that.
No, it's all right. It's not interrupting at all. I'll give you a follow back. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. Yeah, if anyone else wants to come up, even if you just have something to say or you want to ask one question, that's totally fine, right? It's not really interrupting the stream. We're here just for that anyway. So yeah, get more involved, guys. Hello, how you doing?
Hello, James.
Yeah, what's good?
I am currently wiping my ass.
Okay, sounds like you're suffering. Well, I hope you can get over that. We wish you the best. All right, next up we have someone else. Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Hi,
I just want to say that I support you, and I have a question, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, go for it.
So if you somehow win, everyone supports you, how are you gonna start like a total extinction?
Yeah, so we need to do it as a government. We are not going to do it with an opposing government trying to stop us. So the first step is to become the government, basically. So that is the plan. It is to take over the world and start running it ethically, and then we can do extinction properly, right? Again, if we're doing it while the government is trying to stop us, the military is trying to stop us, it's not going to go very well.
Yeah.
And we won't be able to do it properly. So we have to do it properly, and which is why we have to take over the world and start running it ethically first. So that to do that, we are growing the movement, and we are looking into ways to make it happen as well. So we're not just relying on sheer numbers of people. We're going to be looking for intelligent ways to take over the world with less people, basically. So we're already looking into that. And does that answer your question?
Thank you, James. I hope you actually rule the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
And yeah, look, the world needs to be run ethically anyway, right? It's being run by billionaires and dictators and criminals, right? Like Jeffrey Epstein, like literally. It's because nobody can be bothered to run the world, so it's only the
Same.
selfish criminals that do
You're
it.
wrong.
What's good? What's up? What's going on?
You're wrong.
Why? Why?
Because the suffering will cause suffering.
The suffering will cause suffering.
The extinction will cause suffering.
Do you think it would cause more suffering than it would prevent?
What about the happiness?
That's strike one. Okay. So, do you think it would cause more suffering than it would prevent?
No, but it still would cause suffering.
Okay. So you're saying that it would cause less suffering than it prevents. So why is that? Why does that make it bad?
I don't know, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you should know what you're saying, right? These are your words. You're the one saying it. You're the one saying this stuff, bro. So I'm only asking you to explain your own words. Anyway, Sophia, thank you for coming up. Yeah, as I was explaining yesterday, a lot of people make the same crazy mistake of saying that extinction would be wrong because it causes suffering. So it's actually really funny if you think about this. It's like saying, it's like saying, you know, we shouldn't end violence if we have to use violence to end it. We should just allow violence to carry on forever. It just doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense at all. It's like saying, you know, if you want to save money and make money, you shouldn't spend a penny, right? You're not allowed to spend money if you want to make money. It's like, well, how am I going to get any equipment? And no, not even a penny, right? Well, how am I going to feed myself? No, you have to starve, right? If you want to make money, you're not even allowed to buy food, right? That's the same sort of insanity that, you know, saying that you can't cause any suffering to end suffering, right? It's the same level of just doesn't make any sense. Okay, we've got quite a few people in the queue now, so let's bring them up and get started. We've got Seb coming up next. Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Hello. Yes, can I help you today? Are you suffering?
Hello.
Yes, are you suffering?
I'm actually not. I actually like my life, kind of.
Okay. So, do you support
why do you
extinction?
think we should go extinct if I'm like enjoying my life or something?
Well, surely you would consider that, you know, we have to think about everyone else, not just you.
Okay, but I think if you ask someone like, "Oh, are you suffering?" They say maybe, but I don't want to die. So why should they die? Why should they go extinct?
Well, unless you have complete and total extinction, then suffering will just continue on forever. So, you know, this it's not really it's not worth it.
How do you think we can implement extinctionism as like a policy?
As a what?
A policy, like if you became prime minister tomorrow, what would you do to implement extinctionism?
Well, it really depends on controlling the entire planet. So that would essentially be what we'd be working towards. A one world government.
I don't think that's possible though.
Well,
It's not realistic.
Your imagination is limited now.
Okay, let's say you stopped having kids to not bring more suffering into the world. It's just only antinatalists and extinctionists are going to go extinct. Everyone else is going to continue having children. And there's no real way to actually implement what you're doing.
That's a great point.
It's like, what's the point of even preaching that?
Seb, that's a great point, which is why we already account for that. So, yeah, the pro-extinction movement depends on humanity continuing until we complete animal extinction first, and we should absolutely reproduce. If the smart people don't reproduce, then they're leaving the world to unintelligent people. So we shouldn't do that at all.
Well, smart people don't reproduce.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you look at
Exactly,
the
which is a
fertility
problem.
rate,
Which is a
like
problem.
Africa, they-
So, yeah, so we need to fix that
Are
problem.
you a pro-natalist?
Yeah, so we're pro-life for humanity until we can complete animal extinction and then move on to human extinction.
What's wrong with animals? I like animals.
All of them. Yeah, you liking animals doesn't mean that.
Animals.
Deb, you liking animals doesn't mean they deserve to suffer.
But they're not. Why is suffering bad? Why do you want to reduce suffering?
Seb, if you were being tortured, you wouldn't be asking why is suffering bad, would you?
Yeah, but that's not an argument. That's not an argument. Can you prove that suffering is bad and should be reduced?
Yeah, so it's actually unreasonable to ask that.
Can you explain why?
Yeah, because, if you're asking, can you prove that child abuse is bad? It's unreasonable, right?
Okay, I can do that though. You can't.
Again, it's unreasonable. Nobody sane needs proof of that.
Suffering's bad. Can you prove it? Can you?
Seb, you might as well be asking me to prove that life exists and that we're not in a simulation, right? It's unreasonable. Okay, so proving that suffering is bad is unreasonable.
Can you actually point something out that shows that suffering?
It's an unreasonable request. It's a waste of time. It's gaslighting, right? It's a form of gaslighting, and we're not going to respect it.
But if you can't give me a reason for why suffering should be reduced, then you don't have a right to invoke.
Seb, if you need a reason for why suffering should be reduced, then you're just a selfish piece of shit.
No.
It's as simple as that.
I have a reason. I believe that life is valuable and suffering impedes on life, and therefore we should reduce the total suffering. You don't. I mean, if you believe in extinctionism, I think the sort of life is valuable.
Seb, basically, your argument translates to it's like defending slavery. It's like saying we shouldn't enslave. Seb, it's like saying we shouldn't end slavery because we still make money from it. We should just reduce it.
Okay, but I'm not against slavery.
Okay, well then you can just fuck off, right? So look, somebody that says I'm not even against slavery, right? You have absolutely no position to be, debating what's right and wrong for the world, right? You're not in a position to do that. If you come up here and say, yeah, I support child abuse and I support, being evil, then obviously you're not like a serious contender for, deciding what's right and wrong for the world, right? If you literally just don't care if anyone is a slave, then why should we care about your opinion? And we shouldn't, right? Imagine if, a government was trying to decide on, the next legislation.
Yeah, what's up?
And somebody says, well, I don't care if anyone's a slave, right? They're going to be kicked out of that conversation. Hello, how you doing?
What's up? Yeah, I just want to hop on here and tell you that you're a fucking dork. Like, your little shitty haircut.
It sounds like you don't have a counter argument against extinction, so you're just resorting to insults.
Fucking alien, dude.
Yeah, it sounds like you're not intelligent enough to actually use logic or argue.
Dude, why would anyone argue for what you're arguing for? You're a jackass.
So again, it just sounds like you don't have a counter argument. You're not intelligent enough.
One big guy.
Yeah, it's not that you don't need one, it's that you're not capable of producing one. So we're not going to believe the lie when you say, oh, I don't need a counter argument. We can see the truth. You're not intelligent enough to produce one. Okay, let's move on. We've got more people in the queue. Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I was just wondering, a forceful and total extinction of what? I just joined.
Yeah, everything. Animals and then humans.
Wow, that's an insane take.
Why?
That's all. I'm just gonna sit in the live and listen to some of your.
Do you want to tell us why
arguments.
it's bad? Why it's wrong?
No, I mean, I just think that humans called to be better and made in the eyes of the Lord shouldn't be,
Okay, you right. You're religious. You can just watch in the audience. No worries. Okay, moving on. We've got Iron Sword coming up next. Let's get him on. Hello, how you doing?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
So, you want to make animals extinct first and then humans, right?
Yeah, why not?
All right, so if you make animals extinct, isn't that going to cause more suffering to humans?
We should remove our dependence on animals at the same time.
And all right, so how is that going to work? How are you going to remove our dependence on animals
Well,
without without
example,
causing more?
yeah, for example, everybody could go vegan, right? While we're doing the extinction, and they won't have to be vegan for very long because eventually we'll, once we've completed animal extinction, we can eventually move on to human extinction.
So you don't believe that the entire planet going vegan is going to cause more suffering to humans?
Not any significant suffering, no. And yeah, I mean, look, humans are going to suffer in lots of different ways, which is why we have to make them go extinct. So,
But how,
and
how are you,
look,
how,
preventing all of that animal suffering, who cares if it causes a little bit of suffering to humans? You're just demonstrating your bigotry towards animals.
okay, but how are you going to make the animals go extinct? Like by slaughtering them or just not
Just
letting
however
them
we
breed?
can, the nicest way possible, ideally. I like to think that it'll be like a gas or something, maybe a morphine or something. But we also need to make the world uninhabitable as well to prevent them coming back.
Okay. Do you believe that any amount of suffering at all makes extinction worthwhile? Like if there were
even one victim is too many. Even one victim is too many.
Okay, so if humans could hypothetically create a world with zero suffering, would you still push for extinction?
Only if there was certainty of safety, and that requires omniscience. So, until that magically appears, then the only way to provide real safety is with extinction.
Okay, so if your plan works and say you take over the world and you form this one world government, right?
Yeah.
Do you think some of these people, like the people on the Epstein list, that would you inflict more suffering upon them?
No, not realistically. We wouldn't, we don't really believe in punishment. That just causes more suffering and doesn't really serve to do much. I mean, sure, you need some level of punishment, sure. But are we going to start going after people and being sadistic? No.
So you believe that suffering is innate and inevitable, an inevitable part of existence, or is there a way that is if humans could create a world where the amount of suffering was outweighed by the amount of joy they
So
could
there's actually no way for it to be outweighed. Suffering has infinite weight over happiness. So that means that, no amount of ice cream can ever make up for a child being abused, right? So there's no amount of happiness that can actually balance out cruelty. That's the dynamic that humanity has been using for the last few thousand years. And that's a dynamic which enables slavery, cruelty, forcing people into lives of pure hell, right? So it's not acceptable. The thing is that no amount of happiness can justify extreme cruelty, right? So we have to have a zero tolerance policy, essentially to say that, forcing people into bad lives and extreme suffering so that others can have good lives is against the rules. Forcing life to exist without certainty of safety is against the rules, right? Because the alternative is infinite danger and infinite potential of extreme suffering. So the only way to guarantee certainty of safety and no infinite suffering is with extinction, right? The only other way would be with omniscience. And until that happens and we can just click our fingers and teleport everyone into heaven, then again, we're going to have to go with the only real solution, which is extinction.
Okay, so do you believe that there is any reason for us to be here beyond do you, all right, let me ask it a different way. Do you have any belief in an afterlife?
No, our movement is strictly atheistic, and we don't even allow non-atheists to join the movement because we don't think they're rational enough to be trusted with the responsibility of, well, running the world and ending all suffering.
All right. So if you how do you intend to form a one world government? Like, are you going to create a political party, and or how do you intend to go about that?
Yeah, so we'll either do it democratically or with a revolution or a coup d'etat. So all options are on the table, and we're just going to keep growing the movement, and more options will become available as time goes on. But effectively, the more people, the better. And we're also donating sperm, and we're going to have reproduction programs, because extinctionism as an ideology is only for people that have a genetic predisposition to higher levels of rationality and higher levels of empathy compared to other people. So essentially, one of the main ways to grow the movement will be by reproducing, whether it's donating sperm, which the movement is already doing, so that 20 years from now there'll be hundreds of new activists, or thousands potentially. So yeah, that's one big way that we're growing the movement, and we're going to be doing a lot more of that in the future. Okay, he's disconnected. Let's see, we've got more people in the queue. Let's move on. Okay, we've got Anthony Jacobs coming up next. Hello, how you doing?
Hello, Governor.
Yeah, do you have any questions?
So, you want all life on Earth to be gone?
The whole universe, potentially, yeah, that would be ideal.
So what's the point of that?
To make sure that there is no suffering. The thing is that it's not actually safe for life to exist, and it just ends up suffering terribly as a result. So we should put an end to the system of animals and people being forced into bad lives. It's not really fair.
So what about plants?
Yeah, they should go as well. If to make the world uninhabitable is going to include plants not being able to exist either.
So how would you destroy the universe?
Science and technology, basically.
You don't have any actual theories of how you would destroy the universe?
Well, it would be counterproductive to try and theorize about what the science is going to conclude now, right? We should do the science instead of guessing the science.
So, in what universe is our scientists and our government and our society going to be like, we need to really figure out how to kill all of us?
Well, like I say, we're growing the movement, and we have hundreds of people that already support this, and we're growing every day.
So do you think that eventually you're going to get everyone on the planet to agree that we all need to die?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, look, it basically.
Do you think I deserve to die?
That preference is determined by your genetics. So it is going to be a question of fighting for the control of the genetics of humanity, basically, and that's something we're already doing.
So like you just put bombs at the center of the Earth or something like that, and just blow
No, it's more about making it uninhabitable.
Well, what's the point of making it uninhabitable? Might as well blow it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, if we can do that, then we will. But the thing is, like, if we started today, then we could start, putting animals to sleep, using euthanasia, chopping down more forests, for example. So there are other things you can do to start off with. The more forests we chop down, the less wild animals there will be suffering, right? So making the planet uninhabitable.
I have a question about that. If you're going to start chopping down forests, all the animals that are currently living in those forests are going to suffer from you chopping the trees down and you destroying their habitat.
Yeah, exactly. But that suffering is going to be negligible compared to what it prevents.
But you're going to make every single being on the planet suffer by killing them all.
They're suffering already. So they're suffering already. So extinction can't make it worse. It's impossible to cause more suffering with extinction then you prevent, right? 60 seconds of going to sleep versus billions of years of being eaten alive and starving to death. Yeah, extinction definitely does not cause more suffering than it prevents.
So it's not their choice to live or die.
Nature programs them to want to live and to reproduce, even if it's not the right thing to do. So the rational position is to be against life.
I was programmed to want to live.
Yeah, everyone is, right? They have a survival instinct. They're afraid of death.
Why don't you just die?
Yeah, because we should help those that can't help themselves to do that first.
But if you're not programmed to want to live, why aren't you dead already?
Because we have empathy for those that are suffering. So we should make sure that nobody is suffering instead. So end all suffering, not just our own, basically.
So you're like God.
Yeah, exactly. Benevolent.
Yeah.
So extinctionists are benevolent, right? We care for
Are
all
you
life, all
omnipotent?
species. No, we're working on that, but we do have the benevolence down.
If you were God right now, what would you do? You just snap and everything's gone.
Well, again, a lot of people ask me this, and they say, James, if you were God or if you had a magic wand, would you send everyone to heaven or would you just make everything extinct? And the reality is that that there are some potential ethical problems with forcing people into heaven against their will. So, I haven't really thought it fully through. It's not the type of ethics that the pro-extinction movement is here to really consider. But I would absolutely consider allowing people to go to heaven instead of just making everything extinct. So it's not that we're like obsessed with extinction. It's more about prevention of suffering and ethics in general.
Strange. All right.
Why is that strange?
I don't know. What's the point of anything if everything's gone?
Well, there doesn't have to be a point, right? Needing there to be a point literally causes suffering, right? If you're saying, we won't help the sufferers because we want there to be a point, then you're literally torturing them just so that you can have a point.
I mean, yeah, I guess I don't get wanting everything to just be gone.
Well, the thing is, again, it's life isn't safe, right? It's not safe for life to exist, so it will always suffer terribly. So it's like shutting down hell, basically. Yeah, it's good if there is nothing in hell, right? You don't want there to be any life in hell.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same. Only the lucky ones benefit from being here, right? The vast majority don't benefit at all. They just suffer terribly. So those that are saying, we shouldn't end all suffering, you might as well be a demon, ruling hell and saying, all the suffering is great, and you're eating your popcorn and you're saying, why should we end this?
What's your favorite food?
Chicken.
What kind of chicken?
Just whatever.
So, any kind of chicken.
Yeah. Well, actually, Chinese food really is my favorite, I guess.
How is it fair that you force those chickens to suffer to feed yourself more?
That's a great question, and it's a perfectly valid question as well. And the thing is that I did actually go vegan, and I also went antinatalist before I joined this movement and learned that both of those things actually cause more suffering. So the thing is that over 50% of the planet's surface is used for agriculture. So just an insane amount of the planet is controlled by humanity. And all of that agriculture replaced forests and wild animals, basically. So basically what that means is that you've got 100 billion farmed animals a year. You have 100 quintillion wild animals each year, which die horrifically in the worst conditions. So if the world went vegan right now, then the forests would end up doubling and the wild animal suffering would end up doubling. So unfortunately, veganism actually causes more suffering at the moment because it promotes more forests, right? More wild animals, more wildlife. It's like environmentalism and conservationism. All of these things are bad, right? we don't need animals to just be suffering for our entertainment. So we should work towards a vegan world. And Shay Tom has been asking over and over in the chat about this. So even though right now we're against veganism, because again, it just ends up transferring suffering worse onto wild animals. If we're the government, then we would be working to make sure that going vegan doesn't cause more suffering to wild animals. And we should obviously work towards a planet with no animals whatsoever. And that would obviously require humanity going vegan. So we should do it in a way that doesn't cause more suffering, whereas right now it does. We can only solve that problem if we're the government in control of it.
So until then, you're just going to continue to feed the suffering by eating whatever.
Well, again, if that's the lesser of two evils, then that's the right thing to do. A lot of people are constantly confusing the lesser of two evils and the wrong and the right thing, right? People are always pointing to the larger amount of suffering and saying, oh yeah, we should allow that, right? If we have to do one horrible thing to end that massive amount of suffering, then we shouldn't do it. So people support the greater evil, the larger amount of suffering, because they don't want to do the right thing. It's too uncomfortable for them, and they would literally just rather allow an evil, even worse, greater amount of suffering.
So what's stopping you from doing these live streams in a cabin in the woods with hydroponically grown fruits and vegetables for yourself to prevent suffering?
So yeah,
suffering at all.
You don't get it. So human civilization reduces suffering by default. So since the dawn of humanity, as humanity started chopping down forests, even thousands of years ago, they were already reducing suffering. So human existence reduces suffering on the planet. A lot of people think that, humanity existing has been a terrible thing. It's caused more suffering. But the reality is that since the very dawn of humanity existing, their impact on the planet has been one of reducing suffering. And the more we control the planet, we're taking up 50% of the surface for agriculture now. The more we spread out on the planet and use it, the more it reduces suffering, because it prevents wild animals from existing. It takes their habitats, prevents them from being forced to suffer there.
So if I killed and ate you, would you have a problem with it?
Yeah.
But then I'd be stopping all your suffering.
Well, why would you do it? Would you be doing it for an intelligent reason?
I'm an animal.
So no, basically.
I need to.
There you go. You've answered your own question.
No. You listen to me.
You want to do it for animalistic reasons, and you're asking if it's the right thing to do.
You don't want to suffer. You're part of all these people that are suffering.
I'm really disappointed because we've given Anthony here quite a polite treatment. I've been quite patient with him, answered all of his questions, and his answer is basically, why don't you just kill yourself? So that's a bit disappointing, really. Okay, let's move on, see who else we've got. We've got more people in the queue. Let's bring some up. Do you have to be 18 plus? Yes, you do. While we're getting some people on, let's invite some people up. We'll see if there's any questions in the chat that are worth answering. You're telling everyone else they should be gone, so why not? No, we're not telling everyone they should be gone. We are pro-life for humanity, right? So we should be encouraging humanity to do better, to be more ethical, to be more moral, so that they can work towards the end of all suffering, right? Anti-natalists, for example, and lots of people think it's trendy and funny to say, yeah, humanity is the worst thing ever. We should just get rid of humanity and, the world would be better off without humanity. But humanity is the solution. We're the only ones intelligent enough and empathetic enough to actually help and to intelligently make the world safe. So we need to be encouraging humanity to do better, to start working towards an intelligent end of all suffering, right? So, yeah, we are not telling humans to go and kill themselves by any means. We want more humans to exist so that we can end animal suffering sooner. Hello, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for picking me. I hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, good, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Well, James, I've been paying attention to this, and in listening to you, I'm a little bit confused as to your focus. Um, let's not focus on extinction. Let's focus on ending suffering. It occurs to me, my good friend, that you have, in at least one of your videos, hit the nail on the head that there is a small number of humans who enjoy a suffering free life, and a vast majority of us who
A
are
suffering-free
just
life.
suffering.
What is a suffering-free life?
Well, it seems to me that
It doesn't
the
exist.
people who it seems to me that the people who are in control of all of the resources are living suffering-free lives.
No, that's wrong. This is a completely childish and ridiculous position that a lot of people have, which is that rich people never suffer. Right? So that's just completely insane, right? That's just absolutely absurd. Rich people suffer just as bad as anybody else all the time. Yeah, okay, sure, they have it better. But that doesn't prevent them from getting like terminal brain cancer and all this other stuff, right? Or murdered, right? How many rich people get murdered, abused by their partner? Yeah, rich people do suffer. It's not like there's never been a rich person who had a bad life. Okay, that would be silly. Hello, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
That's good. It's good to hear. So I just had a question for you. I wanted to test your loyalty to the movement, and I want to see if you actually trust the movement itself.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm okay to ask you these questions.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. So if you were to die, like we're on our final stages of this movement. We're about to end all life.
Okay.
But we tell you, you have to kill yourself first, or let us kill you, and then we'll continue and finish the rest of the plan. Would you do it?
Well, what would be the point? If it was just for some reason it was necessary.
Okay, so our movement operates in a hierarchy. So where your level is at, we're gonna
look. If you're asking if I would die for the movement, the answer is yes. It's as simple as that.
Okay. And when you say you would die, if we told you, we gave you the order that you would have to die first, you would have to be one of the first people to die, and we would keep on going with the movement, would you do it?
I suppose, it could well go that way, right? One of the most recognizable people in the movement, if they're going to go first, then it could make it a bit more encouraging for everyone else. So yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Abby Monarch. So that's an absolute yes. And look, I've always said that all of our activists are prepared to die if necessary for the movement, right? Why wouldn't we be? Why not? Okay, moving on. We've got more people in the queue. Yeah, is some suffering therefore okay? Yes, it is. You can't end all suffering without causing a little bit of suffering, right? If you were not going to cause any suffering, then you wouldn't even be able to walk outside in case you walk on an insect or something. So, and look, people are always asking about, you're prepared to cause suffering, to end all suffering? Yeah, right? Look, extinction is like you're going to be put to sleep for 60 seconds, right? How is that going to be worse than billions of years of extreme suffering, right? Where you're being stabbed, you're being eaten alive, you're starving to death, you're burning alive, you're freezing to death, all sorts of horrible things. You're being murdered, children are being tortured to death, right? For billions of years. Okay, extinction can't possibly cause more suffering than it prevents. It just can't. Especially, look, if you struggle to understand this concept, then just think about wild animals, okay? Or just animals in general, right? Wild animals, over 99% of them get eaten alive as babies, right? So that's the only thing they experience. So their entire life is just being eaten alive. That's it. So how is extinction going to cause more suffering when, to animals, when 99% of them are just being eaten alive at all times, right? So billions of years of being eaten alive versus being put to sleep with some nice gas. Which one do you think causes more suffering? Right? I know it's really difficult to do this one, guys. I know the mathematics on this is like, oh, so complicated. Whoa, I just can't get it. So hand in your homework at the end of the week, and I will mark your answers. All right, we have nobody else in the queue right now. So if anybody wants to debate, ask any questions, then get in the queue. Let's get you up. Now is a perfect opportunity to join the queue because there is nobody. So you will come straight up. Anybody? Someone? No? Right. In that case, again, as I was trying to explain at the start of the stream, we want to do a three-strike system, right? So we should make it so that we can have clear-cut answers on who is winning these debates, okay? And it's a very fair system, which is that if you get 3 strikes for dodging a question, then that's it. You're done. You're finished. You're out. You've lost. You've given up. You've finished. So if I'm debating someone and they say, James, you just dodged a question, I'm going to give you strike 1, then I should say, okay, what was the question? And if I dodge again, they should say strike 2. And if I dodge again for the exact same question, then I've lost the debate. But vice versa, right? So I'm going to be doing this to whoever else comes up for a debate. If you dodge a question, you will be called out for it. And this is one of the main ways that winning a debate actually works, essentially, because dodging questions is one of the most common, gaslighting techniques, basically. And it's because they can't answer the question. So if you ask a question that they can't answer because it defeats their position, then they're going to be dishonest. And instead of saying, you know what, that actually just destroys my entire position. Instead of saying that, they will just dodge the question and try to make you forget it and gaslight you and try and change the subject. Anyway, so we are still waiting for people to join the queue. As soon as someone joins, you will be brought straight up. So we are hot on the debate button, looking to get some debates going ASAP. What's your end goal? The end goal is the most vast and thorough extinction possible. So to make as much of the world as uninhabitable as possible, or in other words, to provide as much safety for as much of the world as possible, which is again the most vast and thorough extinction possible. Now, who could possibly say what the most vast and thorough extinction possible would be? A lot of people feel tempted to make a guess at that and try and guess. But actually, it's incredibly arrogant to try and guess at what would be the most vast and thorough scientifically possible extinction. Like, what would it be? It just doesn't make sense to guess it, right? The thing is that there is essentially no way whatsoever you could possibly know what it's going to be, which is why we should leave it to the scientists to decide. So we are growing the pro-extinction movement, and eventually we will have full-time scientists working in laboratories, coming up with the best way to understand the world and therefore how to do extinction, basically. So it's going to take a lot of understanding the world, learning about the world, learning about physics, and pushing science and technology to their maximum limits, basically. So, for example, if we could do an extinction 1,000 years from now, but there's still room to improve the science and technology and to do an even more thorough one, then we should hold out for that. However, we can be doing extinction from day one, right? So from day one, we can be putting the animals to sleep and working towards a planet with no animals, right? So we don't have to wait, right? We can start doing that immediately while the science is going on for how to make the world uninhabitable. So removing life on Earth is actually quite easy. It's making the planet permanently uninhabitable, which is more difficult. So we can start removing the animals very quickly. It's the science on how to remove our dependence on them and how to make the world completely uninhabitable. That's going to be more difficult. So that's where the real science comes in. And we also want to research universe-wide extinction as well. So again, we can be taking care of all of the animals suffering on Earth while researching how to make beyond Earth uninhabitable. So the ideal situation would be a universe with no life and no possibility of life ever again. And we should leave it to the science to determine if that's possible. So the plan is simply to leave it to the science to determine the most vast and thorough extinction scientifically, physically possible. Which again, that specifically relies on pushing science and technology to their maximum limits, right? So that we have the most advanced science and technology possible. Now, again, just to point out, we don't have to wait and do nothing in the meantime while we're doing that research. So for example, we could be putting the animals to sleep on Earth, and we could also be like potentially sending out things to other planets in the galaxy, or maybe even in beyond the galaxy, while we're still figuring out even better ways. So for example, there could be a nearby planet and we figure out a way to make it uninhabitable. So we go and do that, and that's it, job done. But in the meantime, we're still researching even better ways and ways beyond our galaxy at the same time. So it's possible that we would come back to that same planet and say, actually, we've got an even better way to prevent life developing on that planet now. Or hell, we could say, actually, we can now just destroy the planet. We can throw it into the sun now. But there might be a stage before that, right, of preventing life. And then we can make it better and better and better. So we've got all the time in the world to do this. We have literally all of eternity, billions, if not trillions of years to carry out this mission. Now, the best case scenario for humanity would be if we can replace ourselves with robots and AI, and they can carry on doing all of this, and humanity can just go to sleep. That could happen as soon as 100 or 200 years from now, right? People are already starting to get personal assistant robots in their homes, doing their washing, doing their cleaning, doing their cooking. This is already happening. It's real. It actually is. So yeah, it's not too unrealistic that 100 years or 200 years, 300 years, humanity could be like, yeah, we don't need it anymore, right? We've got robots now, so the humans don't have to suffer anymore. We can just let them be safe. And the robots can carry on making the world safe. So that would be the best case scenario, right? However, if for whatever reason we cannot rely on robots, then we are prepared to continue suffering and living indefinitely for as long as it takes. Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, good. So, if your movement starts gaining momentum and you're gonna make resistance from like you won't be arguing with like plebs on the internet. You'll be arguing with like intellectual juggernauts like Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris. So are you prepared to go?
They're really not that
Are you
smart.
prepared to go against?
Yeah, they're really not that smart.
I know they're not, but other people, I know they're not smart. People think that they're smart, right? So are you prepared to go up against them in a public debate and fucking destroy them in front of everyone? And let's say Jordan Peterson starts crying like a little bitch, like he always does in his interviews.
Very probable.
Are you going to use that? Are you gonna take the opportunity to say, look, see, this man is suffering. I need to put him out of his misery.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, this is proof, right? So yeah, absolutely. I'd be very happy to mog Jordan Peterson or anyone else, right? Even like what's his name? The guy that did the God Delusion book, Charles Dawkins, isn't it? What's his name? Anyway, yeah. Anyone, bring anyone on. Even like a famous YouTuber, Richard Dawkins. That's it. Yeah, he's actually kind of gone crazy now. If you guys didn't know, I think he's become a Christian. Crazy, I know, but look it up. It's actually true. And he's also like anti-trans and all kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, these people aren't that smart. The reality is that humans aren't very smart. Even the smartest humans, a lot of it's still just ego and pride and appearances. And the reality is that humans are full of insecurities, and they're just propping up their ego with falsities and falsehoods. I mean, look at Elon Musk, for example. So yeah, these people aren't very smart. They're just kind of, they're like strong men, basically, you know? They project power instead of intelligence most of the time. Okay, he's disconnected again, and we've got someone else in the queue now. So we've got someone called Jason. And yeah, I've still got time for another debate or two, so if anyone else wants to join, feel free to come up. Someone's saying, would you consider yourself very smart? Yeah, I would. And, it's funny because, like, you're not meant to say that because it's cringe, right? But what if it's actually true? What am I meant to just say no? All right, let's see. Seb is requesting to join. So bringing Seb up. Seb.
Okay. So you got angry at us earlier. I want to make clear we were not supporting slavery, but rather we were pointing out that you can't prove it wrong because morals are subjective.
You can't prove that slavery is wrong.
Yeah.
But do you need to? Right, what I'm saying is that it's unreasonable.
Well,
it's not reasonable to ask for that proof.
Okay. I apologize for my earlier statements, but I'm curious, and I want you to summarize your argument for why extinctionism is the best outlook on life.
Well, yeah, it's probably not the best outlook on life, right? If you want that,
what I mean is,
a Christian.
Why do you think extinctionism is true?
Okay, good question. Because essentially every human is blindfolded right now, and they think they're living in some sort of paradise, when actually they're essentially living in hell, surrounded by victims of extreme suffering, screaming in pain, just like it would be in hell. So people are living in a fantasy delusion, right? The reality, the true way to see the world is that it's just full of extreme suffering and full of torture and cruelty and lives of pure hell. And literally anything else is coping mechanisms, right? Just pure cope, just deluding yourself into thinking that the world is great. But essentially, the more selfish you are, the more you can delude yourself into thinking that the world is fine. Because the less you care about others.
I have two problems with your argument. For one, I think you're imposing suffering on people who would not claim that they are actually suffering. And if they are actually suffering...
Do you not think there's any suffering? You don't think there's suffering in the world?
No. I think there is suffering, but I think you shouldn't go up to someone and say, oh, you're just blindfolded to the true suffering that's actually happening. If maybe they're living a happy life. And there is true suffering, but don't you think we should try to end that suffering through helping those people and not just, like, killing them?
Well, the thing is that there's no way to actually make life safe. So if you want to have no suffering and nobody being tortured, then extinction is the only way. And making sure that there's no suffering with total extinction is more important than letting anybody live when that's definitely going to cause extreme suffering.
But maybe suffering will still exist in the future, but it's possible to create a future in which the overall pleasure of humanity outweighs the suffering. And so don't you think that's a beneficial society we should strive towards?
No, the thing is that we have to have a zero tolerance policy on suffering.
Why?
Because it's the only right thing, right? Because otherwise you're saying, it's acceptable to make people suffer for benefit.
No, I think it's acceptable to allow some people to suffer a
Why?
bit.
But how? How is that ethical? How is that acceptable?
Pressure
You're
is
saying
much
we
greater,
should
and it
let
helps
people suffer.
so many more people.
Say again? Say again? Seb.
Pleasure, but what benefit do you get from, or what benefit do they get from
Seb, I think you're breaking up. It might be a bad connection. Okay, so Seb asked some silly questions like, what benefit does anybody get? The answer is that they're safe from suffering. Even those who are having good lives benefit from extinction because it makes them safe from suffering. And it also makes, the next generation safe from suffering because they won't exist. They won't be born. He disconnected himself there, just FYI. But he was alluding to some sort of magical balance or ratio where if there's enough people, then suddenly cruelty becomes acceptable. So people have this bizarre principle, right? This is a big one, so listen up, right? People have this crazy idea that essentially something completely unacceptable, like forcing someone into a life of pure hell for their entire life, the ultimate harm, there is nothing worse you could possibly do to someone than that, right? To force them to suffer for 70 years or something. Again, try and name something worse, I dare you, right? So that is the ultimate harm. So when it comes to the ultimate harm, right, the worst thing you could possibly do to another life form, right, the most harmful thing, the most unethical thing, the very worst thing possible, right? There is literally nothing possible, nothing else that you could possibly do worse, okay, than to force somebody into a life of pure hell or an animal, okay? So, obviously, the worst thing possible that you can do to a life form should not be allowed, right? I mean, that's obvious, guys, right? It's like literally the most harmful thing you can do to a life form, that should obviously not be allowed. Why should we disallow murder, not allow rape, but the worst thing you can possibly do to someone? Yeah, that's fine. So that's just completely insane. Now, the thing is that people think that it magically becomes acceptable as long as a certain number of people benefit as a result. So it's like saying, rape is bad, but as long as the gang rape is big enough, then it's okay, right? As long as it's like at least, 10 people enjoying the rape and, raping the woman, then it's okay, right? 10 is the magical number. So by this logic, right, by this brain dead ethics, right, if you want to go and rape someone, just make sure you've got enough people with you who can enjoy it, right? So it's a logic that says suffering, extreme cruelty, the ultimate harm, yeah, that's totally fine as long as enough people benefit. So someone's saying, who the hell ever says that? Well, the last guy literally said it, and people say it all the time, right? This is an extremely common thing I'm trying to explain to you right now, and pretty much every human has the exact same mentality. So who the hell says that? Everyone, probably including you. So where was I? So the ultimate harm, forcing an individual into the life of pure hell, right? Just the worst life ever lived. So we had someone yesterday say, okay, if one person gets tortured for their entire life, and that's what it takes for me to get to live and continue to live, then okay, it's wrong. We shouldn't do that. 1-to-1, it's not fair. But that guy yesterday, just like the guy today, and like pretty much everyone else, they have this idea that as long as there's enough happy lives, then it suddenly makes the ultimate harm, the worst thing you can possibly do to someone, is now okay. It's now just perfectly acceptable. So this is bullshit, and it's based on nothing, right? It's just a bullshit magical feeling they have in their head, right? It's not actually based on anything. So all of them will say like, yeah, one bad life, that's fine. Force someone into a horrifically bad life, force them to suffer, basically torture someone. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so yeah, causing the ultimate harm to an innocent person, an innocent animal, yeah, that's fine. Torturing an innocent animal for their entire life, yeah, why not? Yeah, that's fine. As long as like 3 people are happy, then that's it. That's fine. Okay, maybe as long as 4 people are happy, 4 people get to have a good life, and 1 person has a bad life. Now it's okay. Yeah, the 1 person who's crying themselves to sleep every night because they're in so much pain, that's fine. Yeah, that's totally acceptable now. But yeah, who cares? Yeah, cry more, bitch. Yeah, what about the happy people? Stop complaining. You should suffer so they can be happy, right? So that is literally this disgusting, ugly mentality people have, right? Where they say, yeah, someone crying to sleep every night, crying in pain all day, every day for their entire life. Yeah, that's fine. As long as someone else is happy, then yeah, fuck it. Stupid sufferers, suffer more. Stop complaining. Suffer so that this person could be happy. That is literally the mentality, right? It's one of a slave owner, right? Which is makes sense because humans are perfectly happy to do slavery, right? They're doing animal slavery. They used to do human slavery. They still do human slavery. So it's a slave owner mentality that says, yeah, if somebody suffers, we torture them to death. That's fine as long as we benefit, basically. So it's literally it just reduces morality to an evil system that says that cruelty is acceptable as long as enough people benefit. So that is the fundamental principle that you're working with. As long as enough people benefit, then any amount of cruelty and evil becomes acceptable. So what does this end up leading to? Well, it directly justifies a dystopia. It directly justifies evil. It directly justifies torturing the minority for the benefit of the majority. It's literally a rule that says, and look, people have said the exact same thing, where I've said, okay, so what? If 60% of the population is torturing 40% of the population in the worst ways possible, right? The 40% are slaves, they're chained up, they're having to work for the 60%, they're being tortured every day, they're begging for death. So if that was the only possible dynamic for the rest of time, 40% will be tortured by the 60% forever, and they will never escape they will be begging for death every day, and they will just be made to suffer forever. People say, yeah, that's fine. I had a guy just, yesterday or the day before say, yeah, that'd be fine. If 60% has to torture 40%, then that's fine. As long as the majority is happy, then who cares about the minority? And some people even say 51% can torture 49% forever. The majority is always right, no matter what. The majority can just do whatever they want. It's a really ugly and stupid mentality that just directly encourages cruelty. Now, the thing is that it makes perfect sense that people support such an evil and horrifically wrong dynamic, right? Again, a dynamic that says forcing someone into the ultimate harm, doing the worst thing possible to an individual, forcing them to suffer for their entire life. That's fine. That's not a problem. That is acceptable. So it's like saying, raping children, that's acceptable. As long as 5 people are doing it and they enjoy it, then the balance, the ratio works out. So again, they believe in a ratio which justifies evil, basically. So that is essentially one of the main problems that humans are dealing with. They believe that evil, like pure evil, can be justified as long as enough people benefit. Now, they will try and wrap it up in a nice disguise, right? They'll try and put a nice bow on it and say, well, if you didn't cause that suffering directly and they're just screaming in pain, but you didn't cause them to scream in pain, then it's okay. Yeah, we can let the minority suffer terribly. The minority can be, the 40% minority, whatever, 10% minority. They can be begging for death all day, every day. And as long as we didn't directly cause that to them, well, they were born that way. So I didn't give birth to you, but I support the system which causes it. So as long as we don't directly stab them in the face, if they fall over and scream for help, then, who cares, basically. So it's an ugly mentality that says, essentially, we can allow evil, we can benefit from evil and, torturing animals and children. And we can do it directly if we have to, but we can try and be nice about it. We can try and make it indirect. So this is another really evil thing. People try and defend indirect suffering and say that it's better than directly caused suffering. So for example, people say that eating animals is worse than animals being eaten alive in nature, that somehow the animal feels less pain if it's being eaten alive by an animal instead of by a human, right? That's obviously stupid. So this is a massive part of the human problem, that they believe that allowing suffering is perfectly ethical, but causing suffering is not ethical. Well, not as ethical. It's still pretty ethical, but not as ethical. So that's just evil, basically. Think of it this way. If you are in the middle of an ocean of animals suffering terribly, and you can actually help them, but you choose not to because you're busy watching Netflix, right? Does that make you a good person now? Does that make you a better person than somebody that caused that ocean of suffering? So you've got an ocean of animals suffering terribly, right? So let's just this ocean exists, right? You're stood next to it, you're watching it. Now, if you choose to allow it to continue, you're just like, yeah, who cares? And you walk away and just say, yeah, that was interesting. Is that better than somebody that caused that ocean of suffering to happen? Now, the answer is no, basically, because who is that better for? In what way would that be better? So would it be better for the victims, the sufferers? No, it makes no difference, right? If somebody caused their suffering or if nature caused their suffering, they're still suffering either way. So again, that ocean of suffering is not somehow worse because a human caused it, right? If it naturally exists, then the victims are suffering just as bad, right? It makes no difference if a human caused it or if something else caused it. So humans will use this as they will attack it, basically, and exploit it. So humans are constantly looking for ways to gaslight you into accepting evil, basically. So one way that they will try and gaslight you into accepting evil is they will say, well, if you didn't cause the suffering, then you can allow it. If you didn't, push that child over and they fell over, then you don't have to help them, right? So that's it, the only reason you would say, well, I didn't cause the suffering, so I don't have to do anything about it, right? Is if you're a selfish piece of shit, basically, right? So people are always making this argument, especially vegans, right? Those evil, culty vegans. They say, oh, wild animals, let them suffer. We didn't cause it, so we can get away with letting them suffer. Right? That's the mentality, basically. But again, getting back to the original point, people have this crazy mentality that something extremely evil, right? Like murdering a child, it can be perfectly acceptable, right? It can be made acceptable. So yeah, raping a child to death should be unacceptable. But it can be made acceptable, right? As long as enough people are happy and enjoy it, then that is the pro-life mentality, that essentially pure evil can be made acceptable if enough people are happy. So again, people can easily admit, okay, if somebody has to be tortured for their entire life just so that I can continue to live one-on-one, it's not fair. But if somebody has to be tortured for their entire life so that two people can be happy, now it's fair. No, it doesn't work like that. Anyway, I've got to go, guys, so I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, join our Discord, WhatsApp groups through the link on my profile. Yeah, go on my profile, on my bio, and click on the link. All right, see you later.